I'm content creator Cori Walmsley. I empower women entrepreneurs by sharing book writing and publishing solutions on my show, Page Turner's Studio with Cori. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Page Turner's Studio with Cori. I'm your host, Cori Walmsley. I'm CEO of Aurora Coriolis Publishing, author of 10 books, and I'm a writing coach. Today, we're going to be talking about how to be more authentic with inspirational speaker Sue Fattibene. I think you're going to love today's show. Sue is a fantastic person, a fantastic coach, author, and a good friend of mine. So this is going to be super fun. Before we get started, though, I wanted to share, make sure you grab a copy of my newest book, The Treasures We Seek. This is a story about a woman who has been through some really challenging times, and she ends up on a trip to Italy to do an archaeological dig with her best friend, and she experiences a huge change in her life. So I think you'll enjoy that. Make sure you grab a copy at the link below. And I also wanted to share that everybody needs a journal. So if you need a journal, make sure you grab a copy of one of these. There are a couple links below. We actually have 4 different designs now, so I'm very excited about that. I actually painted 3 of the 4 designs, and my daughter did the other one. These are small. They're 200 pages, and they fit perfectly like in your car or in your purse. So grab one of those. And on to the show. So I wanted to talk to you about Sue Fattibene because she's amazing. She is the founder of Rev Up Coaching. She's a life coach, best-selling author, inspirational speaker, conference and retreats creator, artist, and musician. Sue is a busy lady. She helps individuals move from vision to accomplished in their dreams, visions, and goals. She coaches and teaches on this system and God's principles of how to thrive in his design for our lives. Sue is an engaging speaker and will help and will inspire you with stories and teachings that reflect the movement God imparts on us and how to confidently rev up through that movement. I love that she uses rev up all the time because we got to get moving, right? So welcome, Sue, to the show. Welcome.
Hi, Cori.
Hey, it's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's great being here.
Sure. So I wanted to start out by talking about your amazing book, which I actually have a copy of right here. The Day the Angel Sat Beside Me. And tell me a little bit about the inspiration for this book.
The inspiration is actually my life, the cancer to calling, the story that came from it, just from a simple dream that I had a lot of questions about. And I didn't understand why I was dreaming this dream. And then a year and a half later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And it's the story along the pathway of my cancer treatment and recovery, the move to Pittsburgh from Birmingham, Alabama, and how God just kept imparting certain things in my life. But just before my treatment ended, I had another dream, and it was the same dream. I'm like, what? But it was a little different at the end. And so I was like, what does this mean? Well, what happened is I moved from banking after 26 and a half years into life coaching. The calling on my heart was to not just hold back helping other people anymore. I mean, God was just really imparting on me, this is the thing you need to do. So then I moved to Pittsburgh, and I'm like, what do I do with this? Because I'm in a place I know nobody. I've been in, Birmingham for so long, and I know all the people and the people I walk with. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this story. So I put it on a shelf and let it sit there for a couple of years. And we were on our way to Germany, and I started writing about it again, and I couldn't get it finished. 2017, I just like, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, no, not going to happen. And fast forward to 2019, so 2 years later, and I know it sounds like a timeline here because it is, I met you at a conference for a mutual business partner who was having a conference down in Florida. And there was something that happened at that retreat. And I saw it and experienced it, and you saw it, and you showed me a specific picture that I knew that I saw what I saw. And it was that actual dream come to fruition. And you saw just a glimpse into it. And that's when I knew that my story had to be out there. And I didn't sit by you by accident. Like, you sat beside me at that conference, and we talked about you writing this book and how to, like, this is my go-to. This is how I did it. And I turned around, and a year later, we launched this. And I know that like God just placed me in positions to meet people to guide me to you. So my story of how the dream, the revised dream, and the dream brought to fruition, how He, gives us promises and He fulfills them in the midst of the storm.
That's amazing. And I know the full story. You're very good at just dropping those dropping the little, like the candy trail. You're like, here, follow this.
Oh,
But we didn't
yes.
give them the whole thing. So you have to check out the book to be able to get the full story because it is truly amazing. And the funny thing was, like, we hadn't met before. And I, for some reason, thought to take a picture of that one thing. I just thought, that's so beautiful. I love that. And I took a picture. And then when Sue was finishing telling us all about this, the tail end of the story, I was like, oh, you mean this?
And you know what I love is that every year you send me that picture of the anniversary. Like, oh my gosh, yes. Because literally, Cori, that was the beginning of my trusting myself to tell my story, trusting God had a story in it for other people, because I realized like that was not my story. It was a story that compounded on itself that had to be given to other people. And I kept it here for so long. And when I released it, I mean, I cried. The last time I sent it to you, I was like, oh, it's about to go live, but it was also, it became my baby. Like God just put a story here and I released it to the world. And I never thought I would ever be an author.
Yeah.
I mean, when I sat down by you, I never thought I'd be an author. And now I'm a best-selling author.
And I think this is the perfect time for me to actually flip the show around a little bit, because normally I do your shares first and I do mine. I'm going to do mine first because this is just perfect. Turn the page with Cori tip. Your story was meant to impact others. It's a gift that you give to help people with their own transformations. And this is like the perfect example of that.
That is beautiful. That is truth.
Yeah.
Because you have these nuggets and you go, ooh, that's a great story. I just remember sitting down and saying, Mom, tell me the story of. Dad, tell me the story of. Or my friend, tell me your story, But you forget that we have these stories within us. And some are really deep and painful, and some are just inspirational and amazing. Well, all of it's inspirational. We just don't realize it.
Yeah.
In there are nuggets of truth for everyone. And I really, that earnest of understanding, when I went through, and you probably had that same moment when you said, I'm going to write this book. When I sat down it was the first day of treatment by someone, and they said, tell me your story. And I told them my story. That was my story. It happened. That's how it happened. I went to the doctor. I found out I had cancer. And then the next day I prayed before I went in and said, just let me walk with the people who I'll be sitting by who's going through treatment, and those who are walking with those who are going through treatment, and those who are administering treatment. And then every day for those weeks of treatments, I would go in and do the same thing. And I would go home and take their stories with me. And I realized my story wasn't for me. It was for other people, just like theirs is too. And, it's those angels. We talk about the angels. I had an experience where I felt like God placed that angel beside me, literally from the heavens, the ethereal angel, to help me walk through that with me. But also there are other angels that share with you here on earth, like you, Cori, or others who have walked with me or through other scenarios with other people. So just having that truth and being authentic and walking through life, but being willing to put it on paper, pen it out.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. So I want to share Sue's shares now. The impactful page turner share. You may need to release perfection to find your true authentic self. Also, let polarizing what if questions go. So beautiful aha moments can be found to bless the soul. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I come from a perfectionist soul, and it took me a long time to figure that out. I mean, when you're in banking, you're trying to climb up the ladder and do all the things with all the perfection steps and goals. And what are you going to do 5 years from now? And we all know what we're going to do 5 years from now. No,
right.
But we can perfection our way through that. And maybe we will meet those goals and maybe we won't. But if you learn to release that perfectionism and say, do something afraid, and walk in it differently, become comfortable in the uncomfortable, then all of a sudden you're not show stopped, you're not polarized, you're not taking these deep breaths and just sitting there and going, I don't know how to do this. And now I can say that, because I can believe in myself and say that out loud to somebody. And just saying that to one person it's freeing. Just breaking off perfection. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having your goals and making life happen and tweaking and adjusting and doing the things. But if you don't move in your life because that thing is not perfect, or you have killed yourself with your emotions because your house is just so full of things, but you don't know how to downsize it, or what I'm saying, that the perfection that comes in, even in the clutter of life, take the moment and take a deep breath and say, what can I do? I always joke in cleaning, like one corner at a time, because then the corner gets bigger and it gets bigger into the room and off the tables and doing the things and living your life. Like, live the life. Give yourself the table space to say, I would like to do these things. Now let's do them, and
Yeah.
create the timelines to make it happen. And timelines can be changed.
Yeah.
So perfectionism will stop the timelines.
I love the analogy of cleaning a room and making the corner bigger. I think that's perfect. So I want to talk about your being a page turner tip. Though this book was my story of my cancer journey, in the end, when the book was launched, my story was not mine. It was meant for others to read and discover God's promises fulfilled through my story. What do you think is like the biggest message from your book?
I did not walk this journey all by myself. And, it's very easy for me to look at people and tell them I'm fine. When they say, how you doing? I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I realized that, when I launched the book here in Pittsburgh, people were here. They didn't walk my story, but they watched me create my story, and they heard the stories that built up to it, right? So I shared that here and I launched it here for the first time. But when I went to Birmingham, I shared my story with the people who actually lived that life with me during that time frame before I moved here to Pittsburgh. And I cried. I walked in and I was like, I'm an author, but I couldn't even say the word author because I wouldn't have even then believed that that was me. And at the same time, I was sharing this wealth of knowledge for people who knew the story, but didn't know the intricate pieces because I didn't ever release it to them. And they cried with me and they talked these stories with me. And they were like, you know what? That's me. That's so me now today with what I'm going through. And hearing you talk about these things helps me realize I need to deal with my scenario. And I'm like, write it down. You'd never know what God has intended for your story as you are putting it down, even in bullet point. Then see what happens with it, date it, time it, and see in another year, do you do something with it or you just let it sit there? Because think about if you had these stories in your head, Cori, and you did not release them because you've got some fabulous stories, what would it be like? You would just have all of this in your head and no one would be able to read your stories and go on the adventures. You know what I'm saying? And I consider this one a real adventure. It's a simple story,
Yeah.
but I'm like, well, what happened in the dream? And
Right.
you get to find out what happens in the dream and how things evolve after that. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing when we get our stories out there.
Mm.
So I wanted to share the make an impact tip with Cori. The writing process is a transformation in itself. Nothing curates more awareness than walking through your story with a pen. And I think that's something that you were kind of touching on when you were telling people, make sure you write it down because you learn things from that as you're writing your story down.
Well, remember when we did that last year?
Yes.
Okay. So if you would have told me that I would have gone back to my early 20s and had a conversation with myself, I would have been like, no, probably not going to happen. Right. But I went back and oh, wow, I didn't expect this to happen. You experience life in different ways. And I've got a little tear in my eye. Sorry, just because this one's fresh. Like, this is hot off the presses, y'all.
Yeah.
I went back and it's called Circle Back to Now. And I had a career path where I thought in college I was going to be a music therapist. And I found out later that that's not going to be a fit for me. Well, I chose it not to be a fit for me for various reasons.
Mm.
And the next thing you know, up in this world today, it was shown to me through music and through the tempo of life, and through a very specific Rachmaninoff opus. I mean, like, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to go read the stories. Incredible authors, incredible stories. But mine is a story of transformation because I dealt with the scenario that happened back in the day. And I realized that God circled me back to today so that I could continue to fulfill what I was supposed to be doing then, not in music therapy, but as a life coach. It's incredible what he has done
Amazing.
to bring me back to that scenario in life of what he planned for me and what I said, "Nah," and he goes, "Okay, well, not now, but in your
Yeah,
future, you'll be doing these things." So,
that's amazing, and that's another fantastic book. Sue, thank you so much for being on today. It was wonderful having you here.
it is so delightful to be with you, Cori. Thank you so much for letting me share the time with you and talk to you about the stories and the books we've shared together, and so I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Oh, it's been awesome seeing you. I'm gonna send you back to the green room, and we will wrap up.
Okay, see you soon.
Well, that was another episode of Page Turner Studio with Cori. Make sure you join me again next week on Wednesday at 7 Pacific or 9 Central, where we will be featuring another guest. Have a Page Turner's Day. You can learn more about my services and products at auroracorealispublishing.com. Make sure to join me every week on the SWE Media Network YouTube channel and wherever you listen to podcasts.